Prepare yourself for List Off, the gaming podcast where your hosts, Brian and Ryan, rank the things they love. 3, 2, 1, List Off!
This week, don't bother with those other games we mentioned last week because they were garbage. These are the real games that we want to talk about for our game of the year. How's it going? We are joined this time again by Ryan, as always.
Hi.
And Keith from the Main Quest.
Hey, what's up?
How's it going, guys?
Good. Just about as good as it was 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Wait, this totally isn't a different day?
It's not even a different week, Keith.
I'm like Doug. I wear the same shirt every day. So
yeah. So little inside baseball recording back to back.
That's right.
We just had so much fun. We had to keep it going.
That's right.
That's
yeah. Right.
And this episode would have been crazy long, and we don't do crazy long. So we got another episode for you here. But like I said, these are the 1 through 5 games of the year. So you're going to get our favorite games that we played.
These are these are the games that are just hot in the streets right now.
Word.
Yes.
Like
couldn't have said it better myself.
These 15 games are hot.
Yeah. People fighting each other over them.
Yeah.
It's crazy out there.
Streets ahead here.
You can't walk down the street without getting hit with one of these games.
I mean, that's kind of true.
That is kind of true, actually. Especially the holiday season.
That's right.
Actually right in the face.
You might find one of these under the tree.
Yeah. Well, Keith, you want to unwrap your number 5 and we'll get started here?
Well, we're leading in with a little something different.
Oh, yes.
Brian.
Yes,
Yeah,
you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
I could wrap a different kind of package for you.
Yes. Yes.
You can tell it's getting late.
All right. Well, maybe I'll give you a little topic here for that unwrapped package. So
just fellas, the tip of the topic, though.
Oh my God. No, we can't do this. We can't do this.
This is all staying.
Cut it all. Cut it all. We're starting over.
No way.
Welcome this week. All right. So, Keith, I want you to tell me a game that you may not have gotten to this fine year, 2021, that you potentially would have put on your list. Maybe you heard a lot of buzz about it. Maybe you thought it was right up your alley and you just didn't have the time or anything to get to it.
I forgot what it was.
Oh no.
All right, Brian, maybe you should start.
All right. Well, let's do a list of games that did come out.
I got it. So the game that I was hoping, I guess I wasn't hoping to get to so that it could be on my list. I did have a cutoff point for my list. So I just kind of stopped playing new games around like November 20th or something like that. So anything released after that was just not going to get applied to this list. And so the game that just recently came out like 2 days ago, as of this recording, is The Gunk.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yes. Yeah. And I've actually, like, at this point, 4 hours in maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really relaxing. I really like it. I don't know if it hangs out with these other games. Even the bottom 5 that we just went through.
The trash heap. Let's just refer to that as a trash heap, according to Brian.
It's the gunk of my list.
There you go.
But yeah, I really want to play this game. I love this developer.
You haven't yet?
No, not yet.
Oh, wow.
No,
it's basically Luigi's Mansion, except you're just, instead of sucking up ghosts, you're sucking up gunk. Okay. And I'm having a good time with it. The character animations are a little strange when the characters are talking to each other. Their mouths kind of look a little funny.
Right. So I actually have a theory about that, because if you look at you're 4 hours in, you do know you run into some fauna at some point on this planet. So
Xerneas.
I'm not even that far. So I think they're doing a thing where they're supposed to almost be like wood carvings. It almost looks like wood carvings.
It looks a lot like Psychonauts.
Like a puppet or something. Oh yeah, I could see that too.
Kind of the same art style.
Yeah.
But I mean, the art style it's good.
Mhm.
The game is gorgeous. I have a screenshot on my
Absolutely.
Instagram currently, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. Some of the platforming is a little wonky. It does the Uncharted thing of there's a clear marking where you
Yeah.
have to jump and grab onto the ledge, where it's like I'd rather just
Here's
be
the
able to grab
yellow.
onto whatever, because
Right.
there are a lot of opportunities to explore that world. And the other thing I'm going to gripe on is that this game doesn't have a map, and
Mm.
it is very linear, but a lot of the gameplay loop is you're just roaming around this world collecting resources. It's the same way you suck up the gunk. You're just sucking up these resources to upgrade your vacuum arm.
Mhm.
So there is kind of like a zen in doing all of that stuff, and the music is very relaxing. But I get tons of anxiety when it comes to the little bits of exploration you do have, because it's very easy to get turned around and like, did I explore this? Like, this area looks very similar to the other area. So it would be nice to have like a little mini map in the corner, or maybe a map that maybe opens up as you explore more areas and kind of lets you know where you've been and where you haven't been.
Yeah.
Something like that. But I don't know, overall, I'm having a pretty good time with it. Again, I'm not entirely sure at this point if it hangs with anything else on here, but I don't know. It could be on my list next year. Who knows?
Yeah. So I kind of agree with you. I enjoy the gunk. It's very low key. I don't think it hangs with any of my top 10, but I did not expect to enjoy it as much as I am. I think it's very, very zen. But I do think comparing it to Luigi's Mansion, Luigi's my boy. I think Luigi's Mansion has deeper mechanics than this game does. I think that's
I
fair
was
to
just
say.
like the act of the
Right,
sucking
right. Yeah.
is
Yeah, Luigi sucks.
somewhat
We get it. Okay.
is somewhat similar. I
Right,
was just
right.
comparing it in that way.
Right. No, it's a good pick. Yeah, I can't wait to play more of it for sure.
I'm definitely gonna finish it. Like, I'm having a good time with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. So what about you,
Nice.
Brian?
Yeah. So Ryan, you know this already. You know what game that I did not play that I wanted to play. Take a guess, man. You got to do it.
Deathloop?
No, it's Returnal.
It's Returnal.
It's
Okay,
Returnal. Yeah.
Mm,
Returnal is the game that I know I'm gonna love. I have it now. That's a step in the right direction, but I just have not gotten there. But I will, and it's a game that I think people have forgotten. I mean, it came out in April of this year, so it might not be as in the forefront as other games when people are talking about their games of the year. But that is one that, I mean, Ryan sung its praises all year long. And it was one that I really regret. I didn't have a PS5, number one. Now I have a PS5. Now I have the game. I will get to the game.
We are all three like top tier capital G gamers. We're elite.
Yeah.
We are elite, boys, because we are the PS5 crew.
That's right.
Right now.
PS5
Cheers.
crew.
Cheers.
There we go.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. No, I agree. You should play it. Everybody should.
Yeah.
I mean, I almost got up and left when you told me that you didn't play it yet. So
I know.
Oh,
I know.
Thank goodness, Keith.
It's my biggest shame.
Thank you for your patience.
I'll still stay.
Well, okay. So how about this? Do I redeem myself because this is technically the first PS5 game that I bought? I skipped Ratchet. I skipped Ghost of
It's the first
Tsushima.
PS5 game I bought too.
Okay.
I don't know if it was the first. I don't think it was the first PS5 game I bought.
Your Demon Souls.
Was it? Yeah,
guy.
Demon Souls. I think
Demon
it was
Souls.
a Demon Souls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Technically, Astro's Playroom. It's the first game.
No, that's true. Yeah.
Right.
Everyone
Well,
bought that
yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Best
for
selling
sure.
game,
For
That
sure.
is the most expensive game I've ever bought.
right?
Yeah. So if I had to pick a game that I didn't play that I maybe would have made my list, that's what we're doing here, right?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
I would say Deathloop maybe stood a chance. I had a lot of fun with the Forgotten City, and I've heard so many good things. I've also heard some negative things about Deathloop where people play it and they're like, I have no idea how this can make anybody's game of the year list. I'm not that familiar with Arcane games. I didn't play any of the Dishonored.
Oh, wow.
So
You have them now. You should play them.
I do, and I should. But I would have liked to experience Deathloop. It's just it came out probably a week or two after I got my Series X, so it was like, man, I could spend $60 on this now, and I think now it's as low as 20, but I'm still like, I could spend $20 on this now, or just wait. At this point, what, 8 months,
yeah.
and
You
I get
just
it for
wait.
free? Like, I'm gonna wait. Yeah, I'm gonna
Right.
wait. Like, I don't have that big of FOMO. I'm gonna just sit
Yeah,
here and wait to play it for free.
it's one of those things considering what it's ZeniMax property or Bethesda. I don't
Right,
remember which one.
right.
I'm like, yeah, this is gonna come to Game Pass, so I may as well just.
And as soon
That's
as
why
Sony loses that
Microsoft was-
exclusivity, it's gonna be on Game Pass. Yeah.
I feel like that's why Microsoft was like, yeah, I mean, yeah, totally exclusive for you guys, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
it was. And like I
that's
said
all.
on the last episode, I haven't heard anybody really talking about it. I'm just genuinely curious about it, but I'm just gonna wait.
Mhm. Yeah, same. So that's
All
it.
right. Well, now we can get into our list here.
The real
So-
packages.
We will do the real package right here, right now. All right. So Keith,
I
what
go
do you got
first?
for us?
Okay, yeah, okay. So my number 5 is Ender Lily's Quietus of the Nights.
Wow.
I've heard of this.
So I'm gonna throw a little bit of shade here. So while everyone was out there sipping on the Pepsi Cola that is Metroid Dread, I was sipping on some of that cold Tres Cuatro Cinco that is Ender Lilies. Tres Cuatro Cinco is like a $400 tequila. This isn't tequila,
Okay. I did not know that.
but hey, there's nothing wrong with Pepsi, right?
Yeah, just don't go too deep into this, because I think most people would say there's a superior game of these two, and it might not be Ender Lilies, but sorry, go ahead.
It's okay to be wrong. It's okay to like a video game.
It is
so
okay to like a video game.
Ender
Absolutely.
Lilies is a Metroidvania. It takes obvious inspiration, especially on the art side for like Castlevania. While the gameplay is much closer to the best Metroidvania ever made, Fight Me, Hollow Knight. So, like the upgrades you get are comparable to Hollow Knight. It takes things like a step further in that it gives you like 20 different types of attacks that you find throughout your playthrough, and each of those attacks, they have their own upgrade paths as well. Then you can, as you search through the areas, you find these things called relics that basically just boost your basic character stats of your character, which are obviously similar to the charms that you find in Hollow Knight. So the cool thing about Ender Lilies is that your character actually doesn't attack. You play as the main character, Lily, who is something that they call a white priestess, and this is kind of when you get into the story a little bit. And so you are escaping this kingdom that has been plagued by something called the I want to say blighted. I think it's called blighted. And it transforms everybody into basically these undead monsters. And because of her status of a white priestess, it kind of goes into the lore. I won't get into all that here, but she's basically immune to this curse. And so guiding her through the game are her various servants who died protecting her while she was basically in this coma, in this stasis before the game takes place. And so these servants, they call them spirits in the game. They are your basis for attacking. So you start off with a spirit called the Umbral Knight, and it's just kind of like your basic, like your ranged sword wielder, essentially. And eventually you find other spirits that are specifically ranged. So you find one that wields a bow. Maybe you find a spirit that is just essentially a tank that's incredibly strong. You can find magic wielders as well, cast spells and stuff. And so
Is there like a route that you're gonna find the tank one next, you're gonna find the archer one next, or it's
sometimes
random? Okay.
Is it like you could sequence break?
You can, you
Yeah.
can, but there is very much like a set path. Like each area obviously has its own boss.
Mhm.
And so you could totally not find every spirit. You could just beat like the 7 or 8 bosses and get basically what they call it cleansing the spirits and obtain them. And each of them are kind of different. You kind of got a heavy attack or a light attack. But you really aren't. I guess I can't say it for certain because I did go around and nearly 100% the game, but it's I just feel like you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't do a little bit of the exploration, because if you do collect at least like 15 of the spirits, I mean the gameplay just busts wide open, because the more spirits you collect, the more you can just essentially create your own build.
Right.
Like the first spirit that you get, the Umbral Knight, again, which is just a very basic attack, you don't have to use that at all. As soon as you get the next spirit, you could just completely dump that. You basically have 6 slots in which you can slot these attacks in, and so you can they come it's 2 groups of 3, so you can basically switch to your A attacks or your B attacks, basically with the hit of a button, depending on whatever situation you're in. It's something that, thinking about it, I wish Hollow Knight did. Not that the gameplay in Hollow Knight is bad or anything like that, but I think what Ender Lilies does is it's really cool. I mean, there were certain situations where I was just like going through an area and I was banging my head against it. This game is incredibly hard, by the way. Like this is really difficult. Especially near the end of the game. I'd like just walk into a room and just instantly get wrecked by an enemy. Even if I was at like level 85 or something, like some level that was incredibly high.
Right.
And so that ability to just kind of like, you have certain checkpoints throughout the world, and you just kind of sit at the checkpoint, look at your build, be like, okay, what do I have here? Obviously you can look at your relics and stuff, be like, go through it and be like, all right, what kind of buff do I need here? What kind of do I need a build that's focusing mainly on DPS? Do I want to hit them with like really weak but quick attacks, stuff like that? There's a lot more strategy in Ender Lilies than there is in Hollow Knight.
Wow, that's cool.
The art, besides the gameplay, like the art direction and the music, they fit so well together. The bosses and the boss arenas even look just gorgeous. They're incredible. The bosses themselves have a very heartbreaking story to them, because even though they are monsters, I won't get too much into it, but even though they are like these deformed monsters, they're actually still cognizant of what's going on. So they still are very much human, even though they have no control over themselves. And just the story surrounding Lily is, I mean, the end of this game is like Shadow of the Colossus level of
cool. Wow.
like it is heartbreaking. This, I mean, Ender Lilies is incredible. I mean, the fact that this game got slept on is a crime. Honestly, I've
heard
great.
It mentioned like 1 or 2 times.
I've heard it mentioned, a few places, and people were, from what I heard, people were lukewarm on it, but maybe they didn't give it a fair shake.
It's probably because it's hard.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
It could be.
It's incredible. I mean, Hollow Knight, comparing it again to Hollow Knight, because that's the best comparison. Hollow Knight has optional areas that are very difficult, but they're optional. Ender Lilies is just hard.
Yeah.
It's very tough.
The visual style compared to Hollow Knight as well, with some of like the whites and blacks. But I guess that's not the case. You're saying it's more like a Castlevania.
This is very much closer to like fantasy Castlevania.
Oh, cool.
Even though there are no vampires in this game, they're like werewolves and
kind of
stuff like that. And like, more gothic, right?
Yeah. Cool. Man, good.
I'm intrigued. Whenever you say Metroidvania, I'm always going to be at least a little bit on board. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
So did I hear you right, Brian, when he said it's difficult? Did you kind of perk up?
no,
Oh,
the
okay.
opposite. Yeah,
Okay. Because I was like, you don't finish games. You
Yeah,
just
no.
said like, okay, yeah, okay, good.
yeah.
All right. So that's
Difficult.
interesting. Yeah, I haven't played through Holland. I know people would chastise me,
Ah!
for it, but I really should. I have it. I have it. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Maybe,
it's your returnal to my
apparently.
yeah.
Yeah. We do have a game Metroidvania list coming up too. So maybe I should get on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Good pick, Keith. I do want to check it out based off of how you speak about it. It piques my interest for sure.
I will say, I kind of slammed the gunk about not having a map. Ender Lilies has a map. The map in Ender Lilies kind of sucks. So I will, if there's one bad thing I have to say about it, the map sucks. But
That's a shame.
at least you get one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
That's a shame.
All righty. You ready for this one?
I'm ready.
Okay. My number 5. This is the game that is the reason why I have not beat Halo Infinite campaign, and it is Inscription. Because
Oh, wow. Good
I
pick,
want to
man.
play this game so bad.
Now this just makes makes me want to play it even more.
Yeah. So
Can I
I've
go
played
back?
a lot more.
Can I go back and change my game from the gunk to Inscription?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I'm so happy this made your list.
Yes. And I played it a little bit a couple of weeks ago. I bought it because I knew that people were in love with it. So when I say Metroidvania, throw in Card Battler, because I love deck building card games. That is like up my alley. I love SteamWorld's
SteamWorld Dig?
Handed Gilgamesh, right?
Yeah, Steam World Quest. That's what it was.
Oh, SteamWorld Quest, yeah.
Yeah. So this is similar in the terms of the deck building, at least. But the atmosphere is incredible. So the game starts with you taking your cards, and like we have new game and I'm sorry, there's only continue. You start the game on continue. So you're like continuing someone's quest, basically.
Interesting.
But you put the cards in the slot, and it's very reminiscent of kind of like old school, like take the game in and put it in, what like kind of disc-based games, I want to say, of like computer games. And the whole auditory style is in that kind of Atari sound, like really deep, like burp, 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 burp.
Interesting.
Weird sounds like that. You've certainly heard soundtracks where it's kind of that Atari music. Like I can't even think of an Atari like fantasy game where you're going through a dungeon, but think of that for the soundscape, basically.
I am hooked on Atari, a dadgum television game. We play it every morning, and we play it every eve. Now, pinball machine is my favorite. Blackjack game is just for me. They say there is over 100, but I've only got 17. My wife is hooked on Atari, but she gets a little bit uptight. I beat her every morning, but she comes back at me at night.
The card game is awesome. It's very, very simple. You have cards that are all different animals. It's a very simple looking game in the cards, where it's just everything's a brown piece of paper. It's like black ink.
Yeah, I've seen that.
All little different animals. A screenshot. Really, that's it. That's the game. And you just have lanes that you're putting your cards down, and you have certain costs associated with them. You're sacrificing. Everything gets sacrificed. So you have to kill your squirrel to put down your like rattler. And there are different costs. Sometimes it is a sacrifice. Sometimes you can put cards down based on how many of your creatures have died. And those are like, there's either blood or bones, basically. And the cool part of this, and I haven't even gotten to what the actual weird stuff going on in this game, but the cool thing is there's a story going on this whole time with one of the cards. It's called a stoat. I don't even know what that animal is, but he talks to you throughout this whole thing, and your opponent is this. I described it in an episode before. It's just this pitch black room with eyes that are staring at you the whole time, and every once in a while you'll get this hand that comes up and will kind of do things like either put a card in play or just kind of tap their finger waiting for you to play. But the card that is seemingly your friend is trying to lead you to basically, it sounds like, free him and other animals from this creature's grasp. So I don't know the whole kind of storyline so far, but it's intriguing in these different ways. And there will be clues on some of the cards or in your rule book that are talking about the it's like you're in a cabin. There are different things that are happening. Like there's a safe that you can unlock, and there's like candles that are around, and you can tell these are like little puzzles that need to be figured out to get to the actual end of the game storyline wise.
Man.
So there's a lot
really
going on in it,
That's
and I hope
shame.
I'm intriguing you with some of the different things that are.
So
going on.
I was so desperate to play this game that I triple checked my PC specs just to see if I could run it.
Oh,
Sure.
And I was like, oh, I'm like kind of on the precipice of this.
Right.
And I even got to the point where I was like, all right, I'm just gonna buy it. And even if it runs like crap, I'm gonna play it. But I didn't pull the trigger. And also, this is coming, like, I hate deck building games.
Oh, okay.
So the fact that I want to play this, I think speaks
love deck
volumes
building
of what you just explained,
Sure.
what your experience is with this game.
There's definitely a very intriguing story going on here, and I've heard that there's some twists and turns, and I'm very eager to get to what those are. But yeah, I can't recommend this game enough. The sound is incredible. So just real quick, it's a push and pull mechanic that you're going through. So you're damaging your opponent, they're damaging you. There's a scale that kind of shows where things are. And there are different aspects where you get like items like, oh, here's just a free squirrel that you can use whenever you want. The game kind of gives you these items every once in a while. At some point it gives you pliers, and it's so you can take out your teeth to then change the scale and like put the tides of the battle in your favor. So that's kind of the, like, I don't know, the theme that's going on. It's very dark.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's all about sacrifice and blood, and it's I can't recommend this game enough. I hope that it comes to more things, because like there's no reason why you couldn't play this with a controller. It's not only PC that
Have
that
you
it needs to
seen
be.
Have you seen the movie The Witch?
Oh,
I have.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of get the same vibes from this game as that movie.
I could see that.
Good vibes.
Does that even make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can feel exactly what you're talking
Yeah.
about with that. Especially the end of that movie.
Ooh.
But yeah, I would
Yeah.
say if ever you get the chance to play this game, you should, because it does a lot of very specific things that if you're into it, you're going to be really into it.
So I have two things. A stoat is a short-tailed weasel.
Okay.
And the second
That's exactly
thing
what it
is,
looks like.
can we get like a hashtag inscription for VR trending?
Oh my God. I would absolutely
Like
go
that should
move.
be a thing.
Let's not get
Whatever.
ahead of. We need console first. Let's not get ahead of
Yes.
ourselves.
I would, if this were on console and VR, I would get it in VR. 100%.
Oh, me too.
100%. Yeah. Man, I'm so happy that this. made
So,
the list. I
and
can't
again,
wait.
the reason why I put this at number 5 and probably not higher, haven't beat it, but I plan to.
Brian doing B Ryan things.
I know.
Yeah, no, it's all good. Great pick, man. Seriously, I might purchase it right now. my computer meets the specs, so hey,
Does it really? Yeah,
it does.
You,
Yeah,
you
Oh,
absolutely
it
should.
does.
little
It's
rich
not
kid over
spec
there.
heavy. It's not spec
It's not-
heavy.
it's not
It
terrible.
says like you could use a 550 Ti to play.
Oh, really? I thought it was
Yeah.
760 at minimum.
No, I just looked it
Okay,
up.
yeah.
I mean, let's see. Let's fight over this.
Yeah.
Before I get into my number 5, we got to get to the bottom of this. Yeah, it says right here, GeForce GTX 550 Ti,
Okay. Well, that's cool then.
and Intel Core i5 760. So that's like what, a 7th gen i5? That's like, I got that. I think, pretty sure.
Keith, what you need to do is you need to buy the game, and then you need to play it on
Struggle.
GeForce Now over the cloud.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I could probably figure
this is not an intense like Twitch based anything. You have time
Right.
to like think about your moves and things. So
Yeah.
Man.
Oh,
Okay.
man, right?
I really want to play this game.
yeah,
Yeah.
I really do.
Same. Well, so we did talk about last episode, I think, how the Nintendo Switch has not aged well, but you know what did age well? 2D Metroids aged well, because my number 5 is Metroid Dead. It is in fact the Pepsi Cola of Metroidvanias.
Hey, Pepsi tastes good.
Hey man, okay.
Team Coke.
Yeah, no, I think like I obviously have not played Ender Lilies, but you have not played Metroid Dread either, Keith. So
I don't know. From the sounds of things, I think I have.
yeah,
The way
I mean,
everybody talks about it.
but you also say Super Metroid might be your favorite game of all time, right?
I wouldn't say
It's
favorite
up there.
game of all time.
It's up there though.
I play it like every year.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't see how you haven't played this game. It's so
Yeah.
good. It is so good. I'm not judging you, Keith. Like, hey, like I'm glad you had the experience you had with Ender Lilies, and I just wish people would play Metroid Dread. It's so good. It's very deserving of this list, and I can understand like, so I know people think, oh, it's just another Metroid game. And like, yeah, of course it's another Metroid game. You play as Samus and you're on a planet and you have to discover your surroundings and power up. But like, I would argue that, Ender Lily sounds like a Metroid game. It does seem to be trying something new, which is refreshing. But in many ways, this does too. It tries new things, and it goes beyond the power-ups. It's also the story they're trying to tell. I think it's maybe the first Metroid that has a story I really was interested in and enjoyed throughout the whole thing. I just think they did Samus so much justice in this game as well, and it was great to see her finally fill that role of being this empowered bounty hunter. And I mean, she did in the prior games as well, but it was,
He gets a little more powerful here.
yeah, it was telegraphed more and it came across more.
She
and-
gets really pissed off.
well, there's more to it than that, but yeah, I would say she gets really pissed off at this game a few times.
I mean, I've seen this. I've watched an entire playthrough. So
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Yeah. I think they did a commendable job of wrapping up the actual Metroid story, so they can move forward without that if they choose to move forward with these 2D Metroids. This is my best Switch game of 2021. I don't think that should come as a surprise to anybody, but you won't be seeing any more Nintendo Switch games on my list. I enjoyed the crap out of this game. It plays so well and so smooth, and all the little slight animations and work. There's a lot of work put into this game, and it's apparent while you're playing through it. But I just feel like the reason it is number 5 and not higher is because it is a Metroid game. And it's not that Metroid games are bad, but there are games that are trying riskier things than this game did.
Are you saying like a Metroid game can't reach the heights of other games?
I don't think this game took enough risks and tried enough new things. I think this game was great because it honestly, in my opinion, is the
Well-
best Metroid ever made. And to have it as number 5 and say that seems like a
Look at the-
contradiction, but it's not a contradiction. Like, I just think that even the best Metroid game in 2021, for my personal gaming taste, it's not going to be enough in a typical year to be like the best game I played that year.
Well, look at the meta-ness. Look at the meta narrative of the Metroid games. Look at what Metroid fans have gotten before this game. The Other M,
Right.
that Metroid Federation Force,
Mhm.
Metroid Pinball.
that-
Yeah, let's
just
not
like
forget that.
Nintendo has just been, they have not put the love and care into that franchise.
Mhm.
And so to put out another 2D Metroid and experiment with it is very risky, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So to answer your
mean,
question, I
yeah.
don't think they want to, I think they just want another Metroid game.
Right.
But it does everything better than any other Metroid game had, in my opinion. This is my opinion. I understand how people would feel about that, but I really think like if somebody wanted to play a Metroid game, this is the one I would recommend to them. If they wanted a 2D Metroid game, I still think Metroid Prime is the better game. But I just feel like, yeah, it also got so high on my list because it was refreshing to see this franchise return to form.
I think a
So,
lot of people missed it.
yeah, and absolutely, I will say it earned its spot based off the fact that like, oh, it was just so good to play a great Metroid game again. So I definitely see what you're saying, Keith. Those missteps did help this game achieve more than it maybe would have without those missteps. But man, it did it. It did everything right. Like this is a game that if you enjoy Metroidvanias and you enjoy like silky smooth gameplay, once you get the hang of the controls and how you move in the environment, it's this like instant recognition of how you could string these things together to just seamlessly move like a bullet through everything. And like in battle, you feel it just feels so good to play as Samus when you're in smaller areas with a bunch of enemies. You could just like avoid all these shots and it's intuitive and you feel like the universe's greatest bounty hunter. It's great. This game's great. Yeah.
Well
That's
said.
it. That's all I gotta say. I'm not defending it anymore.
And
Right,
I won't tear it down.
Yeah. You should play it. I think there's a demo now, right? Like you can play it, at least try it.
Yeah.
But if you've seen it, it's kind of like you saw the
Yeah.
If you've watched a whole playthrough, it would be hard to recommend like to sit down and play it.
I've gone on the record stating I have no interest in 2D Metroid. It's kind of what Brian was sort of alluding to, that there's so many Metroidvanias that have come out in the past 10 years that have really pushed that genre forward. And from what I've seen with Metroid Dread, again, I'll just go play Super Metroid.
Oh,
So
there's a different speed to this game.
I'm sure there is.
Oh, much different speed.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah, no, it's cool. I get you.
I'm happy that other people are happy that they got, again, I know people missed Metroid,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, and I'm just happy you liked Ender Lilies. I'm totally joking. I haven't.
What a snarky way to
No,
say
I'm
that.
totally. Come on, Keith knows what's up. Like,
I mean, Pepsi tastes good.
look. I stopped drinking
People
alcohol
like
a long
Pepsi.
time ago, so it should be no shock
Who-
that I appreciate Pepsi more than
Which one of the
top-notch tequila.
Kardashians had the commercial, the Pepsi? She was going to solve world peace with
Oh
Pepsi.
God, who knows?
Is
Jesus,
that wasn't Kim.
I don't know, but I know what you're talking about, which is sad that I do.
You know, a game that will bring world peace. I'm really excited to talk about my number 4.
Which game?
I'm excited to talk about all of these
too.
top 5 games. Scarlet Nexus.
Wow, number 4.
I almost didn't play this game at all. But I wanted to play it like the moment I saw it, but I was like, as an adult, the time suck a JRPG can be is like really discouraging.
Yeah,
It's
big
like
time.
the genre that I lament losing, honestly.
Yeah.
Same.
Yes. And I've talked about it on my show how like a lot of modern JRPGs just don't interest me because they're just like way too overzealous, way too overdramatic, very cringy.
It's like anime is now.
Yeah. And I'm a turn-based guy. Like I'm an old school
boy.
JRPG. Yeah. So
Let's go.
or tactical. And
Right.
most JRPGs are just way more action oriented. So it doesn't, there's nothing really there to grab me anymore. So it sounds like I'm being really negative, but I ended up buying Scarlet Nexus.
You bought it? Isn't it on Game Pass?
You bought it like a week before.
I bought it a week before it was announced
Oh
for Game Pass.
no!
But I do not. It's my number
Oh,
4.
that's a
I do not
disaster.
regret it. Yeah,
That's good.
Not really.
Yeah.
that's good.
Scarlet Nexus is all of those things that I just described. It's overzealous, cringy, over dramatic. Within the first 30 minutes of the game, I just had such a good time laughing at all of the dialogue because like nothing particularly funny was even happening. It's just like very anime.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
And then like when that cold, because it just doesn't, there's just not like an intro or anything and you go, there's just kind of like this cold open to the game. And then it finally kicks into like the opening credits scene and that theme song kicks in. It's called Dream and Drive. And it has been in my head like constantly over like the past 2 months. And that credit scene, the cut scene plays and the music, that song kicks in. And I'm just like, I can't swear. I'm just like, let's go. It's so good. The band that does it, I think, is called oh man, something cigarettes. It's a weird band name. But they're called the Oral Cigarettes.
It's a great
Oral
name.
Cigarettes.
They
Yeah.
are just like this really great Japanese rock band. Like all of their songs are great, and
That's
this
pretty
song
funny.
in particular is just so good. At that point, I was just in. I was like ride or die, and when I first saw the game, it was really initially was the art direction that was pulling me in. Like the characters, the battles, the environments, everything is so very flashy, very creative art direction. To be honest, the monsters look dumb as hell. They're basically like, it just basically comes down to they're like just inanimate objects with legs and flowers sprouting all over the place. And they don't like, in the game, they're called others. So also the name for them is it's not very inspirational at all.
Yeah.
It's the others are attacking. Like for instance, like there's like
That has
some of the-
driven fear throughout history. Right? The others are attacking.
It works for Lost.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
there you go.
Or did it? I don't know.
Oh, look out, there's a faucet with legs attacking us, or a flower vase.
Right.
But I don't know, the enemy design, like as dumb as it is, like it kind of works. But obviously, like the bread and butter of any modern JRPG is the battle system. Like the battle system is great. It's fast paced. Like I said, it's based in action. It's not turn based. You have the option to control up to 8 characters who all have their own special abilities, which you combine with your own in battle. And then you can also use these abilities outside of battle to solve puzzles and get through like the dungeons that you have to go through. You also have a meter that's essentially what comes down to be like a limit break,
Mhm.
thinking like old school Final Fantasy or whatever. So and then on top of the limit breaks, you have finishing moves, which can only be performed if you've actually, fought the enemy to their weakness. So you're kind of like building up, like, again, think of like Final Fantasy VII Remake, where you're building up a stagger bar. I don't know if you played that at all.
Yeah, I played the crap out of that game.
Okay, so so the bar that builds up for your finishing move is similar to the stagger meter.
Mhm.
It's one of those battle systems where like if you watch a video of the game or you watch somebody playing it, you'll have no idea what's happening. But like when you play the game, it's does a really good job of teaching you everything. Like the first maybe hour or two is very slow paced because it is teaching you what you have to do. And by the time you get it, like it's so fluid. It works so well. It's smooth as hell. And it's super rewarding when you pull everything off that you want to do, because you have, going into a fight, once you kind of know what the enemy is, you're like, all right, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and it's going to be over in like 5 seconds flat. Whereas when you first encounter the enemy, you probably died. So, for all the crap I gave Final Fantasy VII Remake, like I love that battle system, but I think Scarlet Nexus is better.
Wow, maybe I'll have to give it a
you're
shot.
You're not doing as much. There's a lot of babysitting in Final Fantasy VII Remake, and the fact that you're controlling up to 8 characters, there's no babysitting in Scarlet Nexus. They make it very manageable. What else? I should say there's 2 characters. There's 2 main characters, and at the start of the game, you choose whatever campaign you want. You pick from Yuito and Kasane, which Kasane is the correct campaign because she's cool as hell. Yuito is a bitch. I hate Yuito. But that aside, each of the campaigns are 20 hours long. So it's really not that big of a commitment if you just want to play either or. The game is very manageable. One of the other things that I was kind of scared of is that it was going to be an open world, but it's not. It is different, very large areas that you fast travel between eventually.
That's cool. Yeah.
So it's not open world. It's not very linear because you are going to go back to those areas to level up your characters. Once you unlock more characters to be able to use their abilities, that opens up exploration a little bit more. It's but if you want to play both characters, you kind of understand the bigger picture of what's happening in the story. And again, the story is it's anime as hell. It's very anime,
right? Full of melodrama.
Exactly. Yes. I didn't I played both campaigns, and I going into Yuito's campaign, I didn't feel like it was very much a hassle, for that second playthrough.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, and as corny and as cringy as the dialogue is and everything, you really do get attached to the cast of characters, once you get into it. Haruka is Bae. I mean,
all right.
There's not enough Haruka in this game, if I'm going to be honest. And I'll also say, like, I'll finish this. I'm a newbie when it comes to modern JRPGs,
Right.
So I might be biased, but I think this game is incredible.
Cool.
I had tons of fun with it, and it's kind of made me more comfortable, like, looking at modern JRPGs, to be honest.
Yeah.
So
cool.
I think it definitely deserves to be in my top 5.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Got some passion for it.
For sure. I did really appreciate the battle system in the 7 remake, so I might have to dip into this.
Oh man, God, the system's so fun. I've posted a couple videos around my socials of me fighting monsters because I was just like, this is so cool. This is so cool.
Yeah.
You could, because the main powers of Yuito and Kasane are telekinesis. So before you even get into a battle, if you see a monster, you can just pick up a car next to you and throw it at them. It's great.
Yeah.
Very good.
Cool. Very good.
All right. I'm laughing because my number 4 is the Rift Breaker.
Wait, Brian, what do you call the Rift Breaker? Is that a nickname for something?
See how she feels about the Rift Breaker.
Hey, baby, you ready for the Rift Breaker?
That's so bad. So, yes, Ryan, you've heard me talk about the Rift Breaker. And
I have.
You have. I don't know. I don't know how to read that one.
No,
but,
I have.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
You know that this is up my alley. So again, we're getting into my genres, right? So we've talked about Metroid games when Keith was talking about his games, right? We've talked about card battlers with Inscription. I love power management simulators. Wherever I can get a battery.
We've hit the trifecta for Brian.
This is it.
Yeah.
This is it. Okay. give me some power management, give me some batteries, give me some lines, give me some solar panels. Okay. Any of this kind of stuff where I
Was-
get to manage my power grid.
Was
What were we
that
gonna
you
say?
that was talking about? Was that Factorio last year
Satisfactory.
or Satisfy? Yeah, okay.
That
yeah.
was my power game of,
Yeah,
of
That's what I
2020.
thought. Okay, sorry for
So
interrupting you.
this is satisfactory in a lot of ways for sure. So let me give you the broad stroke here. The Rift Breaker is basically Diablo combat. All right, we got our twin sticks.
Mhm.
We've got our power management, like I was talking about. We've got base management like StarCraft, where you're actually putting down buildings and managing them, upgrading them, looking at the different types of things you can make with them. And all that is just rolled into this great game where you are fending off hordes of enemies in a tower defense scenario. You can expand on this whole map, and you can visit different locations on the planet, but you can just have like a bunch of small bases, a huge sprawling base around the whole world. But this game just throws different obstacles at you all the time. So most of the time there's little like zergling things that are running around trying to destroy your base. There are upgraded units that are just like bigger things. It's basically the Zerg is attacking you at all times. The game will have different times where it says like, hey, there's a solar storm and you can't use your solar, or sorry, there's like a windstorm and you can't use your solar panels, but your wind turbines are like going into 200% capacity mode, and you're having to manage that aspect. You have to build defenses with walls and turrets, flamethrowers, and then your actual character needs to go around and collect resources, and you can fend off attacks on your own because you have your own like arsenal of things. So it's just so many different genres and like perfect things from other games that I have fallen in love with it. And yeah, there's so many things that I love about it. So if any one of those genres is up your alley, then I would definitely suggest playing this Game Pass game.
Oh, it's on Game Pass. Okay.
It is on Game Pass.
Here we go.
The
Game of
Rift
the Year,
Breaker.
Game Pass.
That's it.
It really is. I mean, Scarlet Nexus too, right? Game Pass, like all
Yeah.
these, all these games are there. It's really like the one place to
Yeah.
go for them
Right.
all. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
played this one on PC, but since it's a twin stick shooter, you could definitely
Mm.
use a controller and yeah, it plays really nicely no matter where you are.
Very cool. Very cool. I still haven't tried it.
I feel like I
I-
would lose my mind trying to manage everything that's happening.
I mean,
I said
that's
the
the
same
thing.
thing. I said
That's the
same
thing. But it's so low stress because the like waves that come at you are pretty easy to deal with, to the point where you can just like throw down like 3 turrets and be relatively protected. It's
Okay.
when you start to get into like more stuff.
Yeah.
I think the problem that I ran into was like I was trying to put down too many small bases everywhere, and to guard like too many things at once is a lot.
Mhm.
You can also like warp at any place on the map with your rifts. Like you can set them up and just like go from your base that is like 100 kilometers away to the other one instantly.
Oh,
So
that's
Okay.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what made me think I should play it, is how you were like, it's low stress, like it's, you make it as tough as you want to.
it's
kinda
very
thing.
low
Yeah,
stress, honestly.
Yeah. So I might have to get into it.
Yeah.
But my number 4, I might be the only one who played this. It's Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart.
I played at your place for an hour.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
This is a 3D action platformer where you play as Ratchet, a Lombax, and Clank, who is a defective warbot. You
sounds like
eventually-
garbage.
It's not.
Okay.
Well, he is defective, so maybe to some, maybe to some. You do end up meeting up with another Lombax, but that is well after the fact. Your celebratory parade is interrupted by none other than Dr. Nefarious, who uses your I know, tell me about it. And he uses your own Dimensionator against you.
Jeez.
If you
I,
think,
I always liked the weapon naming conventions
oh
in
god,
the
they're
Ratchet
so
and
much
Clank
fun.
series.
Every single one of these, it's so good, and this game's no exception with that. I was gonna actually highlight that as one of the high points is that you get to use all these fun weapons, and there's always so inventive and fun to use, and just wonderfully named in these games.
This game and this series of games just like turns whatever chemical on in your brain, just like constantly drips it out, where you're just like, I just shot something and it blew up. I just like threw a grenade and it blew up. Just all the time.
Yeah.
You're getting that, I don't know, dopamine drip.
Yeah, and it gives you so many options with how to blow things up that you find the ones you enjoy the most and stick to them. And then once you kind of get your fill of those, you can move on to some of the more experimental ones and have fun with those. The one thing about this game in particular was the story was very surprising. I had played the 2016 remake, and it was a great game. It was very fun to play through.
Mhm.
But the story in this was excellent, so much better than that 2016 game. And you really got a feel for these characters and who they were. Like they felt like real people and had real problems and had real doubts, which is typically not something you see from this sort of game. And all the characters that were introduced, the new characters, Rivet, I would arguably say I enjoyed more than Ratchet, actually. And the side characters are all quirky as all get out, but the gameplay is so much fun, and visually this really highlights what we know of being possible on the PS5 as it stands right now. Obviously the future's coming. Like if
The
you haven't played
future,
that Unreal 5
that's
demo,
it.
like
We have
it-
just
it-
scratched the
right,
surface.
absolutely. But this is some of the best graphics I've seen on a next gen console, period.
It's one of those games you're gonna go back to in like 5 years and be like, oh, this was cute.
Yeah.
Right.
This is like
Yeah.
a Mario 64 to Perfect Dark scenario.
Yeah, it's and the gameplay is completely seamless. That SSD on the PS5 is highlighted here because just the particle effects and everything else. If you're willing to put up with 30 frames per second, this is the first game I noticed where, turning off fidelity mode and turning on graphics mode makes a huge visual difference to the particles in the environment, the amount of like foliage in the environment. It actually changes how the game looks drastically. So if you're willing to put up with 30 frames per second, that
Nope.
is cool to check out. No, and I like dipped in to see those changes,
Right.
but I had to play. I'm the same way. I played in performance mode.
Sure.
Like I need that 60 frames per second if it's there. But yeah, man, touching story. I think the best part of this game is how it all just snowballs. It starts out and it's good right from the get-go, and it's just fun to play. And the way they use these riffs and how you like tether between them, and it's almost like the grapple shot in Halo Infinite. You could use them and it as a way of traversal. And it is much more linear than Halo Infinite, but it starts out immediately fun, and it just gets more fun, and the story gets deeper, and the characters get deeper, and it just continues this growth in all of those aspects as the game goes on, and it crescendos in like one of the best boss fights. Definitely the best boss fight I've ever played in a Ratchet and Clank game. And it's just, I think it was that real big rise up into the end, into the finale, that just left such a good feeling inside me from this game. I'm like, I immediately knew it was going to make my game of the year list when I finished it, because I'm like, man, this game finished strong. And yeah, I think if you have a PS5, and this will go on sale eventually, if you want to get it cheaper, if it hasn't already gone on sale.
It's been like $50.
Yeah, I think you got to wait till, I mean, it's worth 60. I bought it
Sure.
for full price, but at this point you've already not played it. You could just wait a little while longer till it's a little cheaper and get it. That's the
I'm gonna
point
wait
trying to
until
make.
PlayStation Plow comes, and then I can
It'll
just
be on there.
Yeah.
I can see this being one of
Spartacus.
the games that's on.
Yes,
Spartacus. I can see this being one of the games they put on there as a draw to it.
Sure.
And yeah, play it. Like that's all I got to say.
Yeah, I'll say I'm kind of in the I'm in the minority. I've never been too into a lot of console like mascot
Mhm.
platformers, game stuff. Like I've never been into, Crash Bandicoot,
Right.
Banjo Kazooie, Jack and Daxter. Calm down, Brian.
I know,
I
dude.
did play banjo, at least I could say that.
Okay, good.
Which brings up another question, I guess kind of off topic. Did you like Nuts and Bolts? Because
Oh, I loved Nuts and Bolts.
okay,
I loved it.
because the way you're talking about Rift Breaker, I was like, did he? Because I know you love Banjo Kazooie.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, how do you
So
think-
that game kind of, it wasn't what I wanted, but then when I actually got into it, I was like, this is awesome. I love
something
this.
you didn't know you wanted.
Exactly. Yes.
Sorry to go off a tangent. there.
No.
No, he's talking about Banjo Kazooie. Please continue. Like he's happy. He's in his happy place, man.
So Brian, Chrono Trigger.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
let's go. Yeah. So yeah,
Very
that
good.
was my number 4, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. It's so hard
Alright.
not to say ripped apart. It's so hard.
Oh, is that what the wordplay is? They always have wordplay.
Well,
in
because
all
Right.
yeah,
the
like
games.
because if you like PlayStation games, you suck, right? So like that's the like zing.
Ripped a fart.
Yeah.
Well, 2 great Rift games back to back there. Good job.
Well,
Oh, yeah, sure.
I'm gonna break that cycle here. So what if you took Ninja Gaiden, Mega Man,
And flush them down the toilet.
Revenge of Shinobi, and like Contra, and you put it in one game? What if?
Or I could say those like arguably might be the same game.
What? They're not. Contra and Ninja Gaiden are completely different. What if the game looked like those games though? And what if it played like you remember those games playing like, except like actually not, because for the most part those old games played like hot garbage? Are you not sold? You're not sold? I'm looking at your faces.
I think Ninja Gaiden plays well. Except for the jump.
Oh.
Except for that jump and knockback. We could do without the knockback. Yeah. Anyway.
My number 3 is Cyber Shadow. Cyber Shadow. Cyber Shadow rocks. It's such a cool game. The story isn't the greatest, but like all of the games I mentioned, like Mega Man and stuff, it doesn't need to be. It's a throwback in every sense of the word. Like, so you play as this ninja named Shadow who wakes up like in like a future world called Mecha City, where the evil doctor, I don't know how to say his name. I think
Nefarious?
it's either Dr. Progen or Progen. Dr.
Okay.
Progen has taken over the world, killed most of your clan, captured the rest. And so you just basically go through this like side-scrolling action game fighting Dr. Progen's evil robots and rescuing, the surviving members of your clan.
I think it's pronounced Wiley.
That's what I'm saying. It's like Mega Man and like Ninja Gaiden rolled into
Right,
one game.
right.
I mean, like I said, there's no knockback in this game, and the jumps are very good.
Well, that's nice.
It plays it like a modern game. And you start out with like basic abilities, like a run ability. I don't think you start out with the run actually. Just very basic, like jump, crouch, attack, very, very simple stuff. But then as you go through the stages, you unlock more abilities. So you unlock throwing stars, air strikes, wall slides. There's even a parry ability eventually, which is almost like necessary towards the end of the game, because another theme along with the rest of my list of Zelda dungeon crawling games
Yeah.
is that the theme for my lists, more so the lists on my episode, is that these games are hard, and this game is insanely difficult. Even harder than Ender Lilies, I would say.
Mhm.
Like I said, it controls just fine, and much better than the games that it's like obviously paying homage to. But the level layouts really reflect what you can do, and those levels open up the more abilities that you get. Like you eventually get a dash that can be used indefinitely as long as you keep that combo going. You have to do a certain thing to keep the dash going. And that dash essentially one hit KOs everything you touch if you do it correctly. There's 13 levels, I think, if I remember correctly. And each of those levels have hidden areas with hidden upgrades in them. So the abilities that you unlock later in the game can be used to go back to those levels and reach areas that you couldn't before. The graphics, again, it looks like an older game, but obviously like an NES or like a Genesis or whatever could never run this game.
Right.
The animation is just, it's incredible. The bosses, even though they're extremely hard, are so much fun. Like there's this ninja mech who's flying around with like a rail gun that you have to fight, and it's just such a cool fight. And then the checkpoint system's super interesting because as you go through the game, you collect currency, which can be used at these checkpoints to essentially purchase buffs for your character, so that when you die, which you will die, when you return to that checkpoint, those buffs will always activate where you restart if you spent money on it. And so then, because there are several checkpoints throughout these stages, and these stages can be very long, there's like this risk versus reward aspect, because if you only got like 100 gold, do you spend it all at the checkpoint that you're currently at just so that you could get to the next checkpoint, or do you wait until you get to the next checkpoint because it might be closer to the boss? You know what I mean? But the annoying thing is because this game is so hard, as you get further through, the checkpoints get like further and further apart. And so because the game is hard, it becomes
harder.
really, it gets really frustrating to finally get past a part that you're really just like, I need to just get through this. And then you get through it, and then you end up dying on like the next enemy. And then you have to start all the way over at the last checkpoint. And that gets a little annoying, but I mean, that's kind of indicative of what those games were like back in the day. So at the same time, I was like, I guess I can't complain that much. It's Cyber Shadow is just super good. It's such a good game. It's really rewarding to get through. There's probably stuff I forgot to mention. I'm going to stop rambling. It's a really good game.
Cool,
you definitely need to check it out if you've got any love for retro games at all.
What did you play it on?
I have it on. It's on Game Pass. It's
on
Game Pass. It is now. Yeah. Yeah, I remember seeing that.
What an easy sell then.
Yeah. Probably take no time to download too, because it's that retro style, probably like a very small file size, right?
So my number 3 is Death's Door. This is a game I did beat. Okay. Actually, yeah. Okay. I beat this game. I did. I didn't get the whatever ending that goes on and on afterwards. But I really liked this game. This was a really fun one. I liked the gameplay. I know it was very simple, just the different abilities that you have, but the connection whenever you hit an enemy, I felt was really good. Definitely shooting with that bow and arrow was always fun to do. I liked the story enough in this one. It's pretty simple. You're just a bird who is dealing with death. And
can you guys hear that?
No,
not at all.
The very loud car outside. Okay.
No.
Sorry.
Oh, you're good. But yeah, there's just a lot of the graphics, I think, are one main point that you can take a screenshot of this game and instantly recognize it. Very muted colors, a lot of just dark blacks with, I mean, you're a crow, so that's your entire character. But yeah, there's some light puzzles in it. The environments are really nice to look at. It's that isometric view, which always is a fun one for me. I mean, I talked about it in the Ascent. That visual style is always a lot of fun. And I would say the combat gets a little hectic in
Mhm.
the later levels. I mean, there are lots of enemies towards the end, and you kind of have to do the Doom thing where you're like, all right, I got to take out this guy because he's going to be a problem, and so on and so forth. But yeah, there's a lot of charm to it, I think, which not a lot of the other games I've talked about have.
Hothead is the best character of 2021.
Pothead, yeah,
Yes.
Pothead's pretty good, man, for sure.
He is fun.
He's like,
to
you want
travel
some
around
of
with.
this soup, dude? yeah,
Yeah, the humor style of this game. I know I've mentioned it when I talked about Death's Door before, but there's some lines that just tickle that funny bone in just the right way.
Mhm.
The game has it's very specific sense of humor.
yeah,
But
definitely.
yeah, Death's Door, great game.
What'd you think of the music?
I loved it. Pretty simple music too. But it came in at the right times.
Mhm. Man, I'll just talk about this. This didn't make my list.
And I totally get that. It has a lot of impact when you're playing it, but then it kind of leaves. Like
It's yeah, and I think it may be because like I played Hades this year. It seemed like okay, cool. Like here's the office setting. We're dealing with death. Seems very similar. Like it almost. I understand these games would probably be being developed in tandem. Like this
Sure.
did not rip off Hades in any way. But me playing it so close to playing Hades, it felt like yeah, okay, I've seen this.
if you're making that comparison, there's like nothing to do in that office area. You
Right.
like upgrade your.
I think
your
they're very
stuff.
different takes on the same thing, though.
Yeah, oh,
Totally.
absolutely. Like at the
Yeah.
end of the day, they're extremely different takes on the same
Sure.
thing. I don't know. I felt like it was a little messier. Like it, people say, oh, it's like a 2D Dark Souls, and it just felt like the combat never felt as
no.
clean as any of those
Dark
From
Souls.
Software games.
It felt
Yeah.
like a Zelda, like
Yeah,
a,
I would-
yeah,
a
I would
2D
say it's
Zelda.
way
I don't see
more of
Dark
that,
Souls in it
yeah.
at all.
I say it's
Yeah.
way more of that than anything like that. But yeah, unfortunately, I enjoyed it. It's a very competent game.
Yeah.
It got high praise, and I'm just like, it's a competent game. It did a good job.
Yeah, I can
did a good
totally
job.
understand that.
Yeah.
It's available everywhere now.
Yeah.
Not on
Yeah.
Game Pass though.
Not on Game
Not on
Pass.
Game Pass.
Not
yeah,
on Game Pass.
not
It's
on
weird,
Game Pass.
but
I don't regret buying it for $20
No,
at all.
not at all.
At all. But good pick, man. Isometric views, they're great, aren't they?
Oh,
They're
I know what
in.
you're gonna say next.
Just like my number 3 game,
The
The Ascent. The Ascent.
nice.
Yeah. So when I recorded an episode on Keith's show about Returnal, and he said, have you ever played a game where you just want to live in its world? And you, at the time, you had said it's funny to say it about a game like Returnal, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
it is such a darker world. Well, for me, it was The Ascent.
No.
It's this dark, gritty cyberpunk world, and all I could think is like, man, I want to walk those streets. Like,
it's
I wanna,
Blade Runner. It is
It
Blade
is.
It
Runner.
is.
It
Yeah.
is, but it is the best depiction of it's.
Yeah.
It's a better depiction of that type of cyberpunk world than Blade Runner had. I'll just
You just
go out
want to
and
be
say
a
it.
skeezy robot bounty
Yeah,
hunter,
right?
You know?
It's so true. And man, like the gameplay in this was a ton of fun. And it is an RPG. I will 100% back you on that one, Brian. This is an RPG game. You upgrade your stats, specific stats. The
There's
level
a lot
of
of
those stats.
There's a lot of menuing.
Yeah,
definitely.
a ton of menuing,
Yeah.
but it's not a tedious menuing. And I love the way they
No.
tie things together where you get these like augmentations where you could like basically summon things, but it's done in like a cyberpunk way. So you have an implant where you could do these things or whatever, but they tie into very specific stats. So you have to pick which stats you level, and you have to pick your armor and whether or not you're going to have defense against certain types of attacks. And it is very much, there's a lot of depth there that you wouldn't expect from like what is essentially a twin stick shooter. But this is the best cyberpunk RPG to come out in the last few years. I don't think there's an argument to me.
I
being about
100%
that.
agree on that.
Yeah, it's so visually gorgeous. I loved playing in this game. I'm not joking when I say like this was a messy, dirty, gritty world, and I wanted to be there. Like there was so much life breathed into this world by the developers. And I can understand if you haven't played through the story, how you could say, I think you had made an argument against the story, saying like, and a lot of pronouns. accurate, 100% accurate. The first like few hours, I'm just like, what? Like, who are these groups they're talking about? Why do I care? And
The world building is phenomenal.
it is. It is. I feel like, and you had kind of made an allusion to them, like the world building they attempted. I think they achieved it personally. I think that like by the end of the story, I understand the players and I understand what they're after and I understand why it's important. And I also understand how it affects every scope of that society, from the lowest of lows to like the upper echelon of that society.
So do you think I was doing myself a disservice when I started skipping cutscenes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say you probably need to go back and see those again.
Okay.
And like the characters that live in this world, the ones you interact with, all the side missions, there's like funny writing involved. They're always like, yeah, of course there are fetch quests, but I love how it's done. Like at one point you come across this restaurant for a side quest and everybody's vomiting outside of it, right? And he's like, hey, like my meat vendor died and I got this other meat vendor and he sold me this meat and now all my customers are sick. I don't know what to do about it. Like, you got to go send a message and like put a bullet in this guy, basically, right? So you go to find the guy and he's like taking those little creatures from the lower levels and like turning them into meat.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And but the dialogue in it is well done and funny enough that it comes across as like,
so that guy deserved to die.
Oh, totally.
Absolutely.
You have no issue putting a bullet in this guy's brain, right?
Jeez.
And the other one, like this guy is like doing experiments and he needs a certain ingredient. It's all very funny. Very gruesome game, but it never takes. It's another one that just doesn't take itself too seriously. The brutality and like gruesomeness never comes off as offensive. Right?
It's like Gears of War a little bit.
Yeah, I would
kinda.
say definitely. Yeah. I could see the comparison there. Except this being isometric, but like,
Sure.
yeah, I fell in love with this game.
Much higher on your list than I expected. I thought it was gonna miss it, honestly.
Yeah,
We got this far.
I thought this might be the one surprise that I had. It wasn't my number 2 for a long time.
Wow.
And I hope to see more. I'm glad the developer finally worked out some of those bugs. I know Keith had tried playing it earlier than I had. By the time I got my Xbox and started playing it, I think a lot of those problems may have been solved. I ran into a few bugs during my initial playthrough, but nothing that's like game breaking, right?
Yeah, none of the bugs that I don't want to hammer the point too much, but none of the bugs I came across, well, yeah, the bugs I came across were game breaking. There were missions that I literally just couldn't do.
That's terrible. Yeah.
But most of it was it came down to the cosmetics, and that when a game is building a world that cohesive and that atmospheric, to pop into a menu and your character's just constantly naked all the time really takes you out of it.
For sure.
I mean, they have mods that people pay money for that. So
Right. Yeah.
One little quick thing I want to add to is all the guns felt weighty. They had heft.
Yeah.
They had different heft to them, and it felt great to fire them.
especially that like rapid fire rocket launcher thing.
Epic.
That was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Good pick. I'm glad to see it on there.
Thanks.
All right,
Top
Keith,
2.
take it away.
So my number 2, I guess me and Brian are pretty much the only like cool people here because
Is it
my
Death's
number
Door?
2 is Death's Door.
Ah, sweet.
Pretty much everything you said, Brian. I mean, yeah, I could see what Ryan was saying, like, oh, like kind of like that bureaucratic tone of it, and the way that the Reapers deal with death is very indifferent. But like I said, I feel like it's handled a little bit differently here than it is in Hades. And like Brian said, it's not like you're spending too much time in the office or anything like that. There's not you're not chit-chatting with NPCs all the time or anything like that. It's just the characters that you encounter in each section of the game, which again is all these characters are incredibly charming. And I think there's kind of a nice juxtaposition against the themes surrounding death and dying, and then the way that the characters act, because this game some of the story content is somewhat gloomy, and that they're just kind of hammering it in like I said, they're very indifferent to death. They're just like, yeah, everybody's gonna die. It doesn't matter who you are, what you did while you were alive. It doesn't matter if you're Bobby Kotick or Brian.
Right.
You're gonna die, like
Get to
no
the
matter
same
what.
place.
Like we
We're
all
gonna
share
go to the same place. That's
yeah,
right.
we all share the same thing.
Yeah. That and taxes.
Which comes into play when you get into the bosses, who are all very different characters. And as you go through those bosses' dungeons, you learn about who the boss was. And they kind of pop in and interact with you a little bit as you're going through the dungeon also. And
I like that all the bosses got like a funeral.
I was
at the
yeah,
end.
the
Right,
eulogy
yeah.
for the boss.
yeah, then you get a
yeah.
eulogy, which is not something you see very often.
No.
And
So who is your? Can I just take it aside? Who is everybody's favorite boss? Do you have one?
I would say I think it's the pot witch. I think that's what they call her.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good one. That's
I
a
really
good
like
one.
that Yeti. I mean, that
Oh,
was
wow.
a difficult fight for me.
Yeah,
but
I like the frog actually.
Oh,
So
yeah,
that's
the
funny.
frog
We
was
all
the
have
frog.
separate ones.
I mean, they're all
Yeah.
cool. I mean, they're
Yeah,
all
Yeah,
really
yeah,
great
absolutely.
characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the way the story is told, it makes everything very existential, but like it's somehow comforting in how nonchalant all the characters are,
Mhm.
if that makes any sense.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Um,
your character doesn't say a word ever.
yeah, the crow is cute. I think
Just
the
like
crow is,
along for the ride.
yeah, he's just kind of like every cutscene that you see, he's just kind of standing there like
Mhm.
just kind of like moving his head around like a stupid crow. Like
Yeah,
it's great.
it is.
Yeah, it kind of like this game is a little more linear. Well, I don't know, between Cyber Shadow and this, I feel like this is a little more linear, but there are chances for there are opportunities for you to explore the regions a little more and unlock secrets and stuff like that. I think this game really shines through its simplicity.
Yes, that
You
is
know,
the best way to put it. I
this
think.
this game was recommended to me just randomly, like out of the blue, from one of my friends, and he was like, "Are you gonna play Death's Door?" And I was just like, "No." Like, I don't even know what that is. And then I ended up looking up a trailer or whatever. I was like, this kind of looks interesting. So I just went for it, and it totally scratched an itch I didn't even know I had.
Right.
It was the perfect game at the perfect time. And kind of like you, Brian, I didn't get the secret ending.
Yeah.
But I wanna.
Right.
So yeah, that's my number 2. That's it.
It's a good pick for sure.
Nice.
I do want to go on.
Well,
the
yeah,
record.
because Brian picked it too.
Well, that's fine.
Ryan.
Maybe I did sound too harsh on it. I did like this game. I enjoyed it a whole lot. I do think that some of the themes that are sprinkled throughout, it's definitely this one theme of people who try to do good end up doing bad, right? If you try too hard. I think that's the theme with like the majority of the bosses, especially the final one. Also, like power corrupts.
Sure.
But I just think that it didn't hit as heavy as they intended. There were a few times I was genuinely saddened, and the moment that actually hit me the hardest emotionally out of all of it were the crows who got stranded.
Mhm.
Like that felt so dirty to me, man.
The entire
Like,
tone of
poor
the game
souls,
the entire tone of the game is very, very melancholic.
Yeah.
And I won't get into spoilers, but there's a boss fight in here that is probably one of my favorite boss fights of the year,
Really?
but I won't spoil it.
Okay.
It's kind of a spoiler. So
Yeah, we don't want to do that, but I am gonna have to find out which one. Yeah.
All right, my number 2.
Yeah,
do
let's
it?
do it. Let's go.
Okay, so my number 2, it's Halo Infinite.
Your number
it's
2.
It's as high as it needs to
wow. Okay.
be, and it's
Wow.
definitely needs to be higher than 6. I can attest to
Oh
that.
my god, dude! Hold on, is this like
Ooh.
crap on Ryan?
Let's
Day?
get him. Let's get him.
My list is my list. I don't need you guys to agree with it. All right, I'm 100% sure this is the list I
Listen,
wanted to
Halo's
make.
not on my list at all, you filthy casuals.
Yeah, this is 100% the list I wanted to make. So eat
Yeah.
that, Brian.
No, that's fine. Everyone's got their list, no matter how right or wrong we are. But Halo Infinite is number 2. It's got a killer multiplayer mode. It's got a killer campaign. I echo all those thoughts with the story. I couldn't really care less. I think they're doing the same thing over and over again with the, I mean, the story beat is always go into an installation, the weapon is going to be on a pedestal, open a door, you move on, the camera's going to swing around over and over again. Like that's dumb. That's lousy storytelling. And it's not what Halo has done in the past really well. I think there are a lot of instances. I think ODST is the one that people point to as one of the best Halo stories. I think Reach was really good.
Yeah.
So there, you know, the Halo franchise has plenty that it can go off of that there just did not kind of draw from on this. But that grapple hook, it changes everything. It is so much fun to use. You can just fly around the levels. A lot of the times, like whenever there was an elevator, I wouldn't take the elevator. I would just grapple my way up,
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
like slingshot up all the way. And the door is always locked at that point because it needed to be like the elevator needed to go up basically. But it's those 30 seconds of fun, like repeated. And Halo is one of the best games at doing that, at giving you just a wide variety of things to tackle at any one time. And I think the open world and the grappling hook are the two things that really make this, I would say, if they did another Halo in that tired formula, it wouldn't have hit at all. But because they introduced these two new huge improvements, it changes the entire track that this game is on. So, and I mentioned the multiplayer. It's that stays true to what Halo needs to be. And I'm excited to see what they do with, the trappings of battle passes and whatnot. I'm just super excited. I think that's the thing that really puts this on my list as high as it is, because 343 has like reignited a love for a game and a franchise that I haven't had for like a decade.
Yeah, I think that's why it was 6. I'm excited for what is coming.
Sure.
I played through what is here. It's great.
Yeah.
It's great. But yeah, it's a good pick, man. It's a good
Thank you.
pick. I'm surprised it's not your number 1.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Definitely agree with that gravel shot though.
Yeah.
So my number 2 is the most heartfelt game I've played all year, the best written game I've played all year, and maybe the most fun I've had playing a game all year.
Is this sound design best? Because you had said
no, it's not sound design best.
Okay. We're not there yet.
We're not there yet.
Okay.
But it is also the most like visually attractive game I played all year. It's Guardians of the Galaxy. This game, I know, because people are like, oh, here's a AAA comic book game. But guess what? This AAA comic book game took big
and
risks.
Get away from superheroes.
No, it took a huge risk. Like this game actually took a lot of risks. And I think the biggest risk it took was a known property. And you're putting people out there who don't look like the people know. Like you don't have a Star-Lord who looks like Chris Pratt in this game. And you also don't have a Star-Lord who acts like the Chris Pratt Star-Lord in this game. And I think that helps this story more than hinders it.
So I mean, I've been thinking about this because everyone said the same thing about Avengers. I think the big difference here, why Avengers missed and Guardians didn't in that respect, there's like a tree and a raccoon and a big burly blue guy.
Well,
I feel like you have a lot more liberty with that.
I definitely didn't have an adverse reaction to the fact that the characters in Avengers didn't look like the characters from the movies. Like that.
That was a big thing for me.
But the characters weird. I've always known have never looked like Chris Hemsworth or Chris Evans or any of that, right?
And I don't come from any comic book background, so
I also think that they were hindered by their writing, whereas
there are many more problems
because of their writing.
Sure.
And I mean, visually, this game takes risks. Where the game goes, it delves into some of the more cosmic and like just out there aspects of the Marvel universe. I mean, some of the stuff that is hard to depict and hard to imagine, this game is not afraid to put you in those environments and in those situations. And like, it does such a good job of depicting them. I mean, it never comes across as muddied or like you're unsure of where you are or what happened. it's incredible, and it gets into the psyches of the people you're playing with, and it gets into their struggles and makes them real people who have struggles and have faults and have things that they have to overcome. And
It's very Mass Effect in that
right,
respect.
right.
Like just being on the ship and talking to people and
Yeah,
learning more about them.
and you don't feel like that's a gameplay mechanic. You like, that's the thing I felt like when I upset a character, I felt invested in that relationship. Like, I
Right.
wanted to know why. Like, why were you so mad? Like, what did I do?
Why does
And-
Gamora have those dolls?
Right. And but you keep playing the game, buddy, if you haven't beaten it. That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay.
Because you find these things out about these characters that, like, yeah, start out as a gag, right? Like, oh, I just want to collect these things. But then when you find out the truth behind it, it's like, whoa, like, damn, like, I'm sorry that happened, you know? And it also has all these nods to the comic books and the universe that it takes place in, and you know, all these little Easter eggs sprinkled throughout. And it has these phenomenal comedic moments with side characters involved that just come out of nowhere and do so much to boost the game. I had so much fun playing through this, and I said it before when I talked about the game. It made space feel fun. Like, I want to go through space and enjoy myself. I want to go like on this galactic jaunt where you just meet colorful characters and like crazy stuff happens that you can barely comprehend. And this game did that, and it did it well.
I have two questions.
Mhm.
What did you think of the flashbacks? And what did you think of the like actual gameplay, like shooting?
Yeah. The flashbacks I thought were great. I think they served that purpose for Star-Lord that you got through dialogue with most of the other people. Like, you were able to experience it from his point of view. I will say the music that they made for this game, like the 80s glam rock album they made just for this game, is so cool. Like, what a great idea to make up this band and make up these tracks. But the gameplay itself, people, that was like the hitting point for negatives for a lot of people. I did not feel that way. I felt like it was great. I felt like it's that bit of tactics where you're telling your characters what to do. And then you go on the attack. Like, it's very apparent when their abilities become available again, and tell them what to do again. And then you just keep going about your business. And it did become like a juggling act, but it was one I enjoyed. Yeah, I didn't see that as hurting the game in any way. It's not the best gameplay I've ever had, but I enjoyed it. And I enjoyed traversing the environments while also hearing that dialogue between characters.
It's endless. It's just like
so
always
good.
going on.
Yeah, but it's so good. It's
It is,
so
it
well
is.
written. I can't get over how well written.
Like,
this game
imagine
is.
going to like Disney with those people and just hearing
Oh, it'd be
them
great.
talk the whole time.
It'd be such a good time, man, for sure. For
No,
sure.
Keith is in vehement disagreement.
That's fine. That's honestly, like, I know how you feel about comic book characters. I'm not
I
surprised.
hear,
by
I hear
that.
superheroes and I check out.
Oh,
But
man.
the thing is, this doesn't. I think the Mass Effect comparison is a good one. I haven't played those games, but like, you have these decisions that that are posed to you, and there's weight to them. Like, you make a decision, you make a choice, and it comes back later in the game. And if you took this writing, this game, these characters, and just focused on like this outing, like this one published game, you'd have a great time with it if you don't think of it as a comic book movie or a game, rather.
I've never played a Mass Effect game.
I still think you'd have a great time with this. I've never
Both
played a
of
Mass
y'all
Effect game.
need to get the trilogy and sit your butts down and commit the next 120 hours to
Nope.
to the
See, we
three
were talking about
games.
JRPGs before. It's the same thing with Mass Effect, dude.
It's bad.
It
Yeah.
is. It is.
bad.
But Keith, I'm serious. I know you don't like comic book. If you were able to get out of that mind space and approach this game as though it were just a video game, you'd enjoy the crap out of it. I have no doubt.
All of the chit chat that you just talked about sounds like it would drive me insane.
And it sounds like it should. No, I felt the same way. I was thinking, man, they talk like all the time. And at first you're like, this is going to get annoying, but it's so genuine and so well acted that it didn't get annoying to me, at least. So yeah, anyway, that's my number 2, Guardians of the
I
Galaxy.
have Spider-Man and Miles Morales waiting for me for the next few coming up soon. I'm going to start those.
Cool.
So that's my superhero stuff for the
Very
next
cool.
20 years.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we are at the number ones, our actual games of the year, which is crazy to say. But we're going to get into that list right about now. All right, Keith.
So
Here we go.
just a quick preamble here, because both lists, this list and the one on my show, I take my number one very seriously. Like, it's a game that I really resonated with me. It's my number one, obviously. And with these kind of games, it's a game that typically comes out of nowhere for me. Like, these games, my number ones are usually something I just don't hear a lot about, period. And sometimes I will just buy them sight unseen. And that's been the case for like the past several years. Like 2018 was Celeste for me. 2019 was Control. Last year was Hades. Those were all games where I looked at and I was like, I'm never going to play that. And then I did. They were just all games that I really knew nothing about, and they were incredible experiences. So this year, my number one, like without a doubt, like the game, I had no idea was going to impact me as much as it did, was Waifu Discover 2.
I knew it. I knew you were going to do it. I was 100% sure that's what you were working up to. You never fooled me for a second.
I was trying not to look at Ryan the entire time I was talking.
I was like, as soon as you said the second sentence of that, I was like, this mother.
I knew it when Ryan started making faces. I knew there was something up.
It came out of nowhere, and it made me come out of nowhere,
Jeez. That's the line. There it is.
No, my number one is, without any fanfare, my number one is Returnal. I know I'm on your show, but there's really nothing I could say about it that Ryan and I didn't talk about for nearly 3 hours on my podcast. So go to my feed, search for the episode
right now.
on Returnal. Yeah. We'll wait until Ryan and Brian go through their number ones.
Our podcast is a good podcast.
Our Ryan and I literally nearly talk about Returnal for 3 hours. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, most people will probably feel like there's a little left to be desired with the story. I get that. But I'm a huge fan of horror, especially psychological horror. And so much good horror leaves the story up to interpretation. And sometimes whatever can come to your mind about whatever particular topic is served up to you can be much more terrifying in your head than what the creator intended. Or maybe they did. Like, who knows?
Right.
The one thing I will mention, though, I wrote down here so I wouldn't forget, which we didn't talk about, was how much Returnal kind of makes me lament what Metroid could actually be.
That's true.
There's a female protagonist. She's trapped on like an incredibly isolated and terrifying alien planet. The way Celine moves and controls is incredibly fluid. It feels better than it should with how much stuff is going on in this game.
I think in many ways it's a love letter to Metroid too.
Oh,
like
sure. Yeah. This thing, if you have a PS5, you need to get it. It is a showcase. Visually, audibly, the DualSense does an astounding job with helping with that immersion. And then the other thing that we didn't talk about on our episode, Ryan, that I wanted to bring up, but I completely forgot. It goes without saying, we talked about the music and the sound design and everything pretty in depth. But the thing that we didn't talk about was how Bobby Krilic, the composer for the game, uses Blue Oyster's Cult Don't Fear the Reaper throughout the game. Because not only does the song just straight up plays throughout the game at some points, but as you wander around the game, particularly the Echoing Ruins, motifs.
Is that it?
Motifs?
I hear it.
Motifs of that song
It's okay. Keep
God,
going,
it's gonna
man. We love
happen.
cats. We're a cat-based show here.
That the motifs of that song play throughout the echoing ruins, and it's used to great effect.
Mm-hmm.
The game is just Returnal's incredible.
Yeah.
You just go listen to the episode. I won't waste any more time talking about it.
No,
It's
great.
It's great. Yeah.
I want to play this game. That's why it's my number one game that I did not play that I probably should have.
Good pick.
Sony made that difficult though. Yeah, great pick. It's going to be my next big game to play for sure. All right, my number one. We had an entire episode dedicated to it.
Oh, I know what it is.
Yeah,
I was
you know
trying
what
to
it is?
think of what it could be.
Really?
Of course I know what it is.
Oh, yeah.
It didn't hit me that you hadn't talked about this game yet.
Yeah, not a problem. Waifu Discovered 2 was an unbelievable masterpiece that just
Absolutely.
came out of nowhere.
Absolutely.
And Keith and I shared that
At the same time.
One finger mode is revolutionary,
It really is.
if I'm honest.
Yeah.
So
It's Metroid Dread is the
of
actual
course it
answer.
is. Yeah.
Yeah, everything that Ryan said, we did a top 10 moments, and however many we had, 20 plus, were the reason for this game. I loved how fast paced it was. It is the best 2D Metroid game.
Mhm.
I would argue it's the best Metroid game. I know how you feel
don't
about
have
Metroid Prime.
words.
I know.
I'm just kidding.
Metroid Prime's a great game. I'm not knocking that, but they are very different, and it never felt like a slog getting through any part of Metroid Dread. I was always itching to get to the next part. The game does a phenomenal job of leading you the next way to go, and that map is insane. There's so many different places that you could go, but it does a good job of funneling you to the places that you're supposed to.
Yeah.
Those boss battles were intense and always really thrilling and visually stunning. I loved just the entire end sequence. I think I died probably like 20 times to that end boss, and then figured it out, and then didn't take a single hit the final time that I did it. And I think that shows how tight the controls and gameplay really were, where the game never was punishing you if you knew what you were doing.
Yeah.
And yeah, that entire ending sequence in true Metroid form just played out, and I was there for it every step of the way.
No, I think it's a good pick.
Yeah.
Definitely a good pick. Better than Halo Infinite.
It is better than
You said
Halo
so
Infinite.
yourself. You said so yourself.
I stand by that.
I'll say Metroid Prime is a very different game.
It's
a better
hugely
game.
Hey, my boy.
I think they're incomparable games.
I do agree. I think that it would be a disservice to compare the two. They're very different, and even despite the fact that they're both Metroid games and inherently similar in a lot of ways.
It's like saying Super Mario Brothers versus Mario Galaxy.
Right.
You can't. It's two different things.
Correct. So guys, you both had great number ones, but my number one,
Life We Discovered 2.
no, it's 12 minutes.
Oh, jeez.
The best sound
that's
design
not funny.
in the whole year is 12 minutes. Best voice actors, 12 minutes. No, come on, it's Returnal. It has to be. I can't think of another game that could possibly live up to this one. It is very much like Keith said. This is the game that came out of nowhere for me. It was a week before it came out that I finally started showing interest in it. That I was like, wait a minute, like this actually looks good. It looks like I might have some fun with this.
Well, because we saw it and then made fun of the name and then moved on.
Well, we saw it and like it looked kind of funny too. It wasn't telegraphed at all what kind of game it would be or what the gameplay would be. And I'm like, oh, cool, dark world, the aliens, like neat.
Right.
And then they actually did a gameplay trailer about a week ahead of time where I was like, oh, okay, like hold on, this is like bullet hell, like what is this, a roguelike? Oh, maybe, I'll give it a shot. And I went head first and had very many nights with very little sleep for a very long time because I just wanted to play more.
I get to cheat in this game because I can put the game in sleep.
States,
Yep.
Yeah,
I attacked this game with passion because the gameplay was so good. And actually, like Keith, the one thing I would say about your like trepidation of trying Metroid Dread is the only thing that I played this year that controlled anywhere near Returnal was Metroid Dread. It was that smooth, like you are in control, you make the mistake gameplay. And Brian, you said as much for your number one. So I agree. Like I can see why it's number one. But yeah, if you want to hear me talk for 3 hours with Keith about it, definitely go to his feed and listen.
You want to do it
episode,
again right now?
I'm here, buddy. Let's do it. I just think like it's astonishing to me. These lists came out too, where it was like something like the third most retired game or something like that, or a game that wasn't finished or something was Returnal. And I'm like, man, like the people who did buy it didn't finish it, because first of all, not enough people bought this game. This should be the best-selling game on the PS5 right now. It is the best game out on the PS5.
Well, nobody bought it because there was all, we talked about it on the episode, there was all the stuff surrounding it. We're like, this is too hard and there's no safe spots,
and it's still
blah
like
blah
that.
blah.
It's still like that, where people
and me and Ryan are G's and finished it without save points.
That's damn right. You're damn right. And the thing of it is too, like, yes, the game's hard. Be patient. I said this on your podcast. Be patient is the one piece of advice. So people will play it for 10 hours and maybe they're still in the first biome and they're like, oh, like, God, I'm doing so terrible in this game. But you're not. You don't realize that you're not. Like, once you get through that first biome, it clicks. You click. Once the game clicks, it clicks. And I can't think of a game like you were talking about it with Metroid Dread. I can't think of another game that just you make the mistake, you die. Like, it's all on you, and you understand it's on you because there is nothing about this game that is not responsive. Like, everything does exactly what you wanted to when you want it to. So you make the error and it's on you.
I have a bunch of games like that on my list.
Well, that's true. You do. Your list was very much like that way, right? Like you made that point with Cyber.
I kind of sound like a I sound like a hardcore gamer or something. I'm not. I suck at video games, by the way.
Sure you do. Sure you do.
Ryan platinumed Returnal. I did not.
Returnal. Well, that doesn't mean I'm good at playing video games or better at playing
I don't know.
All I will say is Returnal's a game that I will remember forever. This is not something that is just the best game this year. This is a game that will stay in my memory forever as one of the best games that I've ever played. And I don't say that lightly. I tend to be very positive towards games, and I can see the good in almost every video game, but this one's special. It is just a game that needs to be experienced by everybody.
Do you think it would have been my game of the year had I played it?
I think, given the things you were saying about Metroid Dread, I could see it being your game of the year. Like the things that you said you enjoyed about Metroid Dread, I could see this being, if it clicked. I could definitely see it being your game of the year. I think if anybody put the time and effort into it, it would, and enjoys this. I guess there's always got to be the caveat, like, is capable of playing this type of game and enjoys this type of game, because it is punishing. It's going to be hard, and you have to have the patience to deal with that. You have to understand failure is a part of it. But man, it's the best game of 2021 and then some.
No, Ryan, I just want to be good at the game right away.
Yeah.
I don't want to come across any trials or tribulations.
Yeah. And some people do play video games for a power trip, right? Because it's fun to be that. But don't go play this game and expect that. That's, you're going to be
I'm looking at I'm still just kind of like looking over my list. I'm like, I went from Chicory to Returnal.
That's
big jump.
Good. Yeah. I went from Demio to Returnal, which, like, I feel like all my games kind of fit a certain mold, actually. It's interesting. Anyway, like sci-fi or darker or hard. Like, that's like the three things for my list. Yeah.
Just look out for Brian's Rift Breaker.
Yeah. Well, geez, man, my body's not ready. I do have to give it a try, though.
Yeah.
The game, guys. The game.
Perfect. All right. Well, those are some good lists. We did it. We got through 2021. We did these games. I think they're all. These are three phenomenal lists. Not a bad game on there. And I think
this was a lot of fun. This was
Thank
It
you,
was.
Keith, for coming.
this
on.
is like that. Like I said, I don't get to talk about games that I love very often. So just the chance, the opportunity to come on your guys' show and just talk about some really good games. It's kind of settling into the end of the year here and winding down and stuff like that. It was a lot of fun, and I really appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, we were really happy to have you on.
Absolutely, man. It's always a pleasure. We had to have our first guest back to end the year. You know, we
Right.
started
Appreciate
having
it.
guests this year. It was a first for our show, and you were willing from day one, man. So, and you know, we really appreciate you coming back to do this with us. It was a great time.
Anytime.
Great time.
Yeah. Well, 2022 already going to be jam packed, so I'm sure we'll have a hell of a time picking our goodies there as
Maybe
well.
same time next year.
Yeah.
Do you want to go ahead and shout out all your socials and all that before we head out?
Same as the last. Everything's going to be in that link tree. And if you go to my feed right now, my Game of the Year episode will be up. I essentially have 10 podcasters on, 15 hosts, if you count the hosts. Going to hear a lot from everybody. And I still haven't, well, now that I know your guys' list, I can finally listen to what you sent me. But my Game of the Year episode is going to have different categories in which I award a game, specific categories. And again, my list is not specific to 2021. It's going to be more reminiscent of the stuff that I actually did play this year. Not to say that I didn't play any of these games, but
Right.
a lot of games that came out in like 2019 that I'm finally getting around to now.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so that should be out around the exact same time this is out, and you will hear Ryan and Brian on that episode as well, maybe talking about some different games on there. I don't know yet. I haven't listened to it. So.
Yeah, we will be mentioning some different ones. I do have to say, your idea for your Game of the Year awards is very unique, and I would encourage all our listeners to go stop by and check it out because, yeah, I can't wait to hear all the other people. And
it isn't an Avengers level.
It is
of like just the cross pollination and just hearing all the different personalities. It has been. I've already sorted through everything at the time of this recording. And just hearing everybody and hearing it's so cool. I'm so excited for everybody to hear it.
I can't wait.
This is the portal sequence from Endgame all in one.
It really
episode.
is. Yeah. It's instead of everybody coming to kill Thanos, me and my homies are coming to kill Chaos.
That's what's up. That is what's
I
up.
need to kill Chaos.
That's right. My name's what's his name? Jack Garland.
My name's Jack. I need to kill Chaos.
Yeah, that's right. Chaos.
I feel it in my blood.
Oh man, it's freaking chaos. I'll prepare that. That might be on our 2022 list. You never know.
Somebody might be making an episode on it.
Let's go.
Anyway, thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Thank you so much. All right. Well, as always, guys, thank you. And we look forward to our next year in games. See you later.
Bye.